viewers, you're watching the latest edition of 6 Stories at 6 with me, Rakshita Mishra. The top story of the day is, of course, NSA Ajit Doval in Moscow. Important talks underway in Moscow, and all this amid Trump tariff threats and his tantrums over Russian oil imports to India. Story number 2, again, it's Donald Trump and his double standards. When confronted on the double standards, on the duplicity, he maintains silence. He pretends to be completely unaware of what US is actually trading with as far as Russia is concerned. Story number 3 is Prime Minister Modi is going to be in China very, very soon this month, and this is coming in after 7 long years after the Galwan clash. And story number 4 on 6 Stories at 6 is the flood fury in Uttarakhand. Republic TV reporting from Ground Zero. Will get you all the latest updates as far as the rescue operations that are concerned from the state. Also, another story, the big Republic exclusive on Augusta Westland scam, the Augusta Westland case. Republic TV is the only channel to get you the interview of Christian Michel. And finally, we'll also tell you what Vijay Deverakonda has said after he was grilled, or before he was grilled by the ED in the betting app case. First, of course, we start with NSA Doval in Moscow, viewers. Despite Trump's threat to substantially raise the US tariffs on India over Russian oil import, India has shown that it is not in a mood to back down. It will not back down. And in a direct counter to Trump, now National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in Moscow for a visit focused on strengthening India's defense and energy ties. Of course, it's a pre-planned visit, let's be very clear, but it becomes more significant in the backdrop of what's been happening between Washington, D.C. and New Delhi. Now, it becomes more significant now given the heightened tensions between India and the US over Trump's renewed threat to increase tariffs on imports from New Delhi over his purchases of Russian oil. But what's interesting is that Trump's aide, Steve Witkoff, is also in Moscow. Now, is that a coincidence? We do not know. We have Krutad joining us live on the broadcast from Krutad. Well, it's important to understand that there is a defense as usual when it comes to any meeting with Russia. That will be on focus, but at the same time, you know, all eyes, and I'm sure Donald Trump has his eyes on what's happening in the meeting between NSA Doval and the Russian representatives.
Indeed, Rakshita, and it is a very important moment. It's going to be a very busy day in Moscow, where NSA Ajit Doval is meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin. Of course, on the agenda is going to be India's imports of Russian oil. Yesterday, we saw Dmitry Peskov, who is the spokesperson of President Putin, also come out in support of India and said that every sovereign nation has the right to choose their own trading partners. So this conversation is obviously going to happen in that regard, with India securing not just its strategic oil imports, but also deepening its partnership also with the deliveries of S-400 systems and other defense cooperation that also go together between India and Russia. What is interesting is that Stephen Witkoff is now also landing in Russia. Now, Witkoff is a very close aide and advisor of Donald Trump. He was in fact dispatched to the Middle East recently, where he was mediating between the Hamas and the Israeli government to come to a ceasefire agreement, which is presently in place, and the manner in which the entire situation in Middle East has been brought under control. It is very interesting that now he is in the Moscow right now, because there are two aspects of it. Obviously, first, the nuclear treaty of which Russia walked out of, and the manner in which now small and medium range missiles will be operationalized by Russia in the Ukrainian theater of war is an increasing concern. Secondly, the threats made by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev that have sort of irked President Donald Trump, which also led to 2 nuclear submarines being deployed by the United States in appropriate regions around Russia. So tensions between...
Thanks so much for joining us. We also have Alok Bansal, who is a strategic affairs expert, joining us. Mr. Bansal, of course, this is a very interesting development that is coming in. All eyes will be on if at all there are any talks that will happen as far as the oil imports are concerned, because 40% of India's crude oil supply comes in from Russia, and India has made it very clear that it is not going to bow down. No pressure tactics, at least till now, have worked as far as New Delhi is concerned.
See, there is no doubt. I think India has made it very clear that our national interests are supreme, and no third country can dictate to us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. But what is interesting is that while NSA is in Russia, you also have US representatives also visiting Moscow. So one doesn't know in case there is going to be a trilateral dialogue or something like that, which is working out. But primarily, I think India wants to consult Russia to be able to withstand this new threat that has emanated.
Thanks so much, Mr. Alubas, for joining us on Republic TV with your insights on that story. We were now staying with Donald Trump and his tantrums. Now, he had cited, remember, India-Russia trade ties and the Russian oil deal as an excuse to substantially increase tariffs paid by New Delhi. But the ironic moment was when Trump dodged a question on United States imports of uranium and fertilizer trade from Russia, a point New Delhi has highlighted to, in fact, show how Washington indulges in double standards. It unfairly targets the countries that have trade links with Moscow, while it itself continues trade with Russia. Trump might say this, but since January 2022, viewers, let us tell you, US has imported $24.51 billion of Russian goods. In 2024 alone, Washington imported fertilizers worth $1.27 billion, uranium and plutonium worth $624 million, palladium worth around $878 million from Moscow. We'll just play out that graphics for more information, connected graphics to what I just said. Because Trump's obsession with India is very much visible. Before that, we would in fact play out that bite when he was asked a question, when Trump said he does not know about the Trump. And before that, we will just point out to you how there has been trade ties with Europe as far as Russia is concerned, and the US-Russia trade ties is something that everybody is aware of. But Trump is actually using it to, in fact, threaten India with tariffs, that if India does not stop the imports from Russia, the oil imports from Russia, it will increase. And remember, that 24-hour deadline is going to end very, very soon, that he had in fact given out yesterday. Now take a listen into what Trump said.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll...
The big story that we're tracking for you is Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was also set to visit China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit from 31st August to 1st of September. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to China after the ties came under severe strain since the Galwan clash in 2020 along the line of actual control, the Galwan clash in eastern Ladakh. And now, viewers, this is happening after 7 long years. He's also set to visit Japan on the 30th of August for bilateral talks as well. So this is very significant given how there has been what we see ostensibly a thaw in the ties between the two countries. But of course, there are many other issues that need to be addressed as far as China is concerned, viewers. In fact, we are being joined by our geopolitical expert, strategic affairs expert, Patrick Payne on the broadcast for more on this. Very good evening, very good evening, Mr. Payne. And this is, of course, Prime Minister's first visit since the Galwan clash. Now, we've seen that while there have been attempts on both sides to normalize the ties, this is coming in the backdrop of, China's very evident role, which India has also called out in aiding Pak during Operation Sindoor, how it continued to supply, supply militarily or even intel-wise to Pakistan, and also how the joint resolution was not signed during the Defence Ministers Summit. What do we expect from this visit now?
Well, there is no denial of the fact that there are major areas of differences that India has with China. It is a known fact that China is almost like the invisible hand helping Pakistan in every way. But at the same time, if you look at the dynamics of the Indo-China relationship, from where it was at its nadir in 2020 Galwan crisis, to that extent, I think it has reached a better position. It doesn't mean that things are hunky-dory, but I think India is still willing to engage now, because enough demonstration has been given to China that if push comes to a shove, India is pretty well capable to take care of itself and do certain things which will be not so likable for China. So I think the relationship is reaching a stage of equilibrium where China would be compelled in certain ways to accept India's territorial integrity and the fact that India is no pushover, that they have understood. So even though it is a reality that in Pakistan, there is a clear and present Chinese hand, I think India has also made it very clear that if they continue doing so, then India also has the option which it has started exercising in terms of arming some of the bétenoir and rivals of China in the South China Sea, which includes Philippines and Vietnam.
And viewers, the monsoon is unleashing its fury in several parts of the country. The latest, of course, is the flood fury in Uttarakhand's Uttarkashi. Cloudburst triggered flash floods, mudslides, landslides, and it has swallowed an entire village of Dharali. And viewers, we will show you all the visuals that have been coming. We'll go straight to the visuals that show the giant waves of water that have gushed through the area, how they've swallowed all the villages. And you can see the rescue operation that have continued despite the inclement weather, despite the landslide, because those landslides have been blocking the important connecting roads to the flood-affected areas. This is a very, this is a drone visual that you see from Dharali of Uttarkashi. Horrific cloudburst triggered this flash flood that has washed away at least 40 homes. There are many people who are still missing. Several army personnel whose camp had hit during the flood are also missing. The rescue operations continue. The ITBP, Indian Army are present on ground zero, leading the joint rescue mission. In fact, my colleague Akil Jamil has spoken to the ITBP on the and also the NDRF on the rescue efforts. Listen in.
What is the current status of the operations which has been going on?
As of now, the information we have is that 4 persons are said to be dead in this incident, and about more than 50 are reported to be missing. At present, at the disaster site, we have the army columns, ITBP, SDRF, BRO, and the local administration. They are undertaking the rescue and relief operations, and about 150 locals have been evacuated to safer places. The medical camps have also been established, and they are being given the required support.
How many NDRF teams have been dispatched?
3 NDRF teams, have been dispatched for the site, and they are on way because of the landslides, continuous landslides on the this Rishikesh Uttarkashi highway. The movement has been impacted. The repair of the road is being undertaken, and the movement is in progress, though it is a bit slow, and we are hopeful that we will be reaching soon.
What are the difficulties NDRF team is facing currently during this rescue operation?
At present, because as the weather is very inclement, so that is one of the issues, and that will actually impede the progress. And we are just very eager to see that as soon as the weather improves, our teams can also be airlifted, and the movement by road is also effected as early as possible.
We are at the headquarters, so we can certainly see these big screens have been placed over here, and you have been constantly monitoring this situation. How long this operation will continue to save those people who have been over there under the debris?
So as you can see, this is a large area, which has been covered in the disaster. So definitely the impact is large. So it will take some time, for the teams to actually go there, appreciate the situation, and try to retrieve, all the missing people, identify them. So definitely it will be a long-run process.
Could you please give us any estimation of the infrastructure damage which took place during this entire incident of cloudburst?
We don't have the exact details, but the information we have from the media is that lot of shops, the homestays, commercial complex and residential places have been razed to the ground.
And my colleague Ratan Negi is joining us live from the flood side. Ratan, हमें बताएं कि ताज़ा क्या हालात है उस वक्त जहां पर आप मौजूद हैं उत्तरकाशी में?
देखिए, रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन ने यहाँ पर तेजी पकड़ी हुई है। भटवाड़ी जो हेलीपैड है वहाँ से लगातार मौसम खुलने के बाद एसडीआरएफ और एनडीआरएफ के जवानों को लगातार हर्षिल ग्राउंड जीरो पर पहुंचाया जा रहा है। मैं आपको दूसरी तरफ यहाँ पर दिखा रहा हूँ, बरसात ऊपर लगातार हो रही है और देखिए नदी का जलस्तर लगातार बढ़ रहा है। आप देख सकते हैं ये लगातार उफान में यहाँ पर गंगा का जलस्तर लगातार बढ़ता जा रहा है, क्योंकि आप देख सकते हैं गंगा किनारे जो गाँव है उनको यहाँ पर खाली कराया जा चुका है। मुख्यमंत्री धामी ने उत्तरकाशी से लेकर भटवाड़ी तक के लोगों को यहाँ पर साफ कहा है, जो नदी किनारे जिनके घर है उन्हें खाली यहाँ पर कराया जा चुका है। इसके साथ ही अधिकारियों को 24 घंटे अलर्ट पर रहने के लिए कहा है। आप देख सकते हैं किस तरह से गंगा का जो जलस्तर है वो लगातार यहाँ पर अब बढ़ रहा है। ये जलस्तर तभी बढ़ता है जब ऊपर बरसात होती है, तो आप समझ सकते हैं ऊपर लगातार बरसात हो रही है, तो इसलिए गंगा का जलस्तर बढ़ रहा है। अगर अभी तक बात की जाए तो 170 लोगों को यहाँ पर सकुशल उनका रेस्क्यू किया जा चुका है। और लगातार अभी जो बात निकल कर आ रही थी कि केरल और मुंबई के, अगर हम एक बड़ी दर्शकों को बड़ी जानकारी दे दें, केरल मुंबई का ग्रुप 28 लोगों का जो ग्रुप था वो गंगोत्री घूमने गया था। उनमें से दीपक कुमार जो हरिद्वार के रहने वाले हैं, टूर ट्रेवल्स का काम करते हैं, वो सकुशल उनको एसडीआरएफ भटवाड़ी लाई है। उन्होंने ये जानकारी दी है कि केरल और मुंबई का जो ग्रुप था वो 27 के 27 लोग सुरक्षित है। ये बड़ी खबर हमारे पास है और सभी वहाँ पर जो भैरव घाटी जगह है वहाँ पर वो सुरक्षित है। इसके साथ ही एसडीआरएफ ने रेस्क्यू कई लोगों का किया है जिनको सुरक्षित भटवाड़ी लाई है। वो सभी खबरें रिपब्लिक भारत के पास है। उन्होंने बताया है कि वहाँ पर प्रशासन ने व्यवस्था की है, सेना के जवान लगातार काम कर रहे हैं। आपको देखिए हालात में उन्होंने यहाँ पर
rifles, in fact, the column officer is leading the charge as far as the rescue operations are concerned. Thank you so much, Ratan Negi. We'll come back to you later on also to get more updates. But Colonel Harshvardhan also spoke about, he's the column commander of Rajputana Rifles, and he joined us on the rescue operations. Now, if Colonel Harshvardhan, you could tell us what's been happening at the site. You've been leading the operations. If you could just tell us about what's the latest, what has been carried out so far, how the operations have been carried out so far.
I'm Colonel Harshvardhan. I'm leading the rescue and relief efforts at Harshil and Dharali. The calamity had occurred yesterday noon around 1:40. Immediately we had moved 2 rescue columns of a strength of 150 at the Dharali village, and in the next 5 to 10 minutes we were effective there. Around 110 to 120 villages were rescued to safety, and they were evacuated to higher reaches of the region so that they are safe. The army camp subsequently was also struck by a flash flood and a massive mudslide around 3:30 hours. Our column got cut off from both the sides. However, we pressed on with the efforts, and the rescue efforts continued throughout the nights. Around 50 to 60 laborers who were working here in various capacities were evacuated, and they were kept with the column only. This morning we established contact and created makeshift crossings connecting Dharali to Mukhwa village, and also established a makeshift crossing to Harshil. The drones were also pressed into the efforts. We could locate one dead body that was retrieved this morning. Members of the civil administration, police who were there with us, they were also moved to Harshil safely this morning. And around 70 to 80 civil laborers and civilians who are stuck in the region have also been rescued and brought to the Army Harshil camp. These are in addition to around 100 civilians who stayed at the Army Harshil camp throughout the night, and they were rendered first aid and hot meals there at the night.
And what is the strategy, if you could just shed some light on the future strategy for coming in for the operations?
further, we plan to induct some additional columns. Initially, they will be foot-based because the expanse of the mudslide is massive, and at various stretches, the route is completely inundated. So we are just creating new mountain trails to reach the affected areas. The drones have already been employed to locate missing persons. One missing person, a dead body, was located today morning, and it has been retrieved. And the drones are presently being employed to track balance of the survivors. Helicopter efforts will be pressed in as soon as the weather clears for immediate casualty evacuation to Dehradun.
Shifting focus now, viewers, we get you the man who has been the face of the VVIP chopper scam, the man who was extradited in 2018 for a Congress-era, UPA-era corruption case. And now, Christian Michel himself has broken his silence after 17 years with Republic TV. Republic TV puts the toughest questions before Christian Michel on record, from Gandhi family links to UPA payoffs to why the email suggested that he was in touch with Indian bureaucrats. Listen in.
So Mr. Michel, can you please, since the start of this investigation, there has been mention about bribing the intermediaries and certain politicians and bureaucrats. So who were those people? Can you give some names?
Well, let me tell you, there's no corruption that took place in India. I was very much aware of everything. There is no corruption in India. The corruption took place in Italy. It's an Italian political affair. It's got nothing to do with India.
But the faxes and emails from that time suggest that you were in contact with certain bureaucrats and intermediaries here in India. You had spoken to CCS appointed spokesmen as well.
I tell you what, those emails and those faxes all came from Hashki, who created them, and he's admitted it in court that he lied, and he won't come here because he can't give any evidence because he's been lying. And that's why everybody got discharged and exonerated in the Italian Supreme Court, because there is not any corruption took place in India. It all happened in Italy.
So is it true that there was some form of communication with regards to eliminating the competition back then to secure this deal with India?
Only in a legal way. There was no.
Because you have mentioned about your about that in your emails, and with that, were you in touch with the Gandhi family?
Absolutely not.
Madam, please.
Not in any way.
Sir, those who allegedly bribe are accused in the case.
Sir, those who have been named in the case, have you ever spoken to anyone?
No.
Any accused here?
No.
Madam, please.
Nor did they take any calls.
So any names, any intermediaries you were ever in contact with?
Not in India.
My colleague Shambhavi joins us live on the broadcast. Shambhavi, of course, it's again in an agenda-setting interview that Republic TV has brought to its viewers. And the first time, Michel has admitted that there was corruption in this Augusta Westland scam case, one of the biggest scams in UPA era.
Definitely, and it is very important to understand the entire his entire legal journey after he was extradited from Dubai to India in 2018. He has been in custody for both CBI and ED under the charges of corruption as well as money laundering, and he was granted bail on both the cases. First, in the trial under Central Bureau of Investigation, he was granted bail in February. In this year itself, and then the reason that Supreme Court gave that he has been detained for over 6 years now without trial, and investigation delays mean that it could take decades. And again, in the ED money laundering case that he was under custody for, Delhi High Court granted bail in the same case, saying that it of course be subject to conditions like periodic. So he has got relief from both Supreme Court, Delhi High Court in both the cases that he was very actively involved in. And even this year in May, Supreme Court dismissed his appeal now, which was against the conditions requiring a local residential address. And very recently, his children also wrote to the Prime Minister of India requesting that he should be released.
Right, yes, Shambhavi, thank you so much for those inputs. That's all the time we have, viewers, on this edition of 6 Stories at 6. We'll be right back with Live and Breaking.